Fewer places on Earth are more recognized than New York. From the bustling streets and sidewalks of Manhattan and Times Square to the Statue of Liberty towering in New York Harbor. There are many beautiful sights and sounds throughout New York, but the Empire State has amassed a wealth of dark stories throughout time as well. From the bloody days of the Civil War battles fought there, the sinister slayings of the mob wars from the 20s and 30s, to the sad and devastating losses endured as a result of the attacks on 9/11. Despite the many attractions and sheer size of the state, it would seem that darkness finds its way into almost every corner. These are 5 haunted places in New York.
Van Wyck House, Poughkeepsie. This charming and historical home was built in 1870 to the Van Wyck family, and is most known in the area as having a relatively unchanged interior despite its age. The basement still houses its original cistern, and much of the original wood adorns the ceilings, walls, and floors. Probably most surprisingly is that in its 150 years of existence, there have only been 3 owners. Fanny Van Wyck was the last of the Van Wyck family to own the house, and when she died in 1988, she left the house to the town. When she was alive, Fanny loved to entertain in the home, and it became known as the Party House. She had psychics come to the home and would hold sessions in the library and was interested in the paranormal. Fanny often said to people that she believed the spirit of a little girl returned with her after a ghost hunt to England. But the little girl's ghost was not the only resident. Some visitors have reported the shadowy figure of a man that seems to watch them when touring the home. Cold spots are felt throughout the house, the sound of heavy dragging upstairs when no one is up there, and when alone in certain rooms, some have even heard a child whispering, "Mommy." Fanny herself is believed to haunt her home as well. After her possessions were auctioned off shortly after her death, her unhappy spirit stands watch over the building to ensure that the dwelling stays away from further change. Paranormal investigators are encouraged to enter the premises. Just be sure to leave things as you found them, because you never know when she'll be watching.
Van Cortlandt House, Bronx. Settled in the largest park in the Bronx is a 272-year-old house with a ghostly past. Built by Frederick Van Cortlandt with construction starting in 1798, the proud owner never got to enjoy the home as he died before it was completed. It was used by many prominent figures during the Revolutionary War, including George Washington. The home withstood the battles fought throughout the area. It is the oldest house in the Bronx and now serves as a museum. Given the turbulence of the country at the time, coupled with outbreaks of typhus and yellow fever, death was in abundance. Visitors to this historic site have claimed to hear whispers in the hallways and doors that open and close by themselves. Many people say that there is a presence who makes itself known by touching them on the shoulder and giving them the feeling that they are being watched. Perhaps the most disturbing occurrence involves reports of dolls walking around on their own throughout the museum. Some believe that these are the souls of the people who have died in and around the property over the last 2.5 centuries. Whatever the case may be, the spirits of the Van Cortlandt House seem content to take up their permanent residence.
New York State Education Department Building, West Albany. This neoclassical structure with its Grecian tones and 36 giant pillars was built in 1912 and has been home to the New York State Museum as well as housing the State Education Department. President Theodore Roosevelt even held the dedication ceremony in 1916, stating that a museum of this character has more than one function to fulfill. What Roosevelt probably was unaware of was that the foundation of this majestic building was rumored to entomb the body of one of the workers who helped in its construction. It is said that in the dark confines of the sub-basement, the ghost of an Italian worker roams the corridors, appearing to visitors and then fading from sight as mysteriously as he disappeared from his crew the day he died. It is also said that he likes to help people when they're looking for a certain book from the many shelves of literature in the sub-basement, often making the books fall off the shelves only for the patron to find that it was the very title they had been searching for. He has also been known to turn lights back on after they have been turned off, and some visitors have even reported his ghost riding with them on the elevator from the sub-basement, only to disappear when the doors open to the ground floor. It would seem that this helpful spirit has truly become a part of this beautiful place, in life and in death.
Rolling Hills Asylum, East Bethany. Opened in 1827, this asylum was originally the county poorhouse, or to the locals, the old county farm. In that time, the poor were considered drunks, elderly, and mentally insane. The mentally unsound were housed at the asylum until 1887, when the Board of Supervisors sent those suffering with acute insanity to live elsewhere in the state until a second building was constructed in 1928. Those residing at the farm are referred to as inmates regardless of their reason for being there. They were to work the 200-acre farm, tending to the grounds, the livestock, and any other needs. The property has served many purposes throughout the years, acting as an infirmary, an orphanage, a tuberculosis hospital, and a nursing home. There is believed to have been over 1,700 bodies buried on the grounds in unmarked graves, forgotten by time. And locals say that their restless spirits still haunt the buildings that kept them prisoner. Numerous accounts of paranormal activity have been reported here. Visitors to the grounds have witnessed disembodied voices of patients, unexplained physical touches, ghostly laughter, and even full-body apparitions. Perhaps the most commonly witnessed ghost is that of the Shadow Man, a 7-foot-tall figure that is believed to be that of patient Roy Krause, who suffered gigantism and stood at 7 feet 6 inches tall. He lived at the asylum most of his life and died in his room in 1942. Others have reported the ghostly figure of a woman dressed in an old nurse's uniform, who has been seen walking past the offices in an adjacent building to the hospital. Paranormal investigators actively search the psych ward, morgue, and graveyard for any sign of the ghostly inhabitants here, and on one investigation, a visitor reported peering into one of the rooms and seeing the image of a man in a high-back metal tub, steaming himself in a bath, while a nurse looked on over him, grinning menacingly. Others say that the spirit of a young boy likes to play tricks on unsuspecting visitors to the basement, hearing his laugh and the sounds of footsteps running toward them, only to fade as if they were passing directly through their bodies. Even an old organ above the shock therapy room is heard to be playing on its own. The squeaks of wheelchairs and occasional screams are still heard through the empty halls and serve as an echoing reminder of the atrocities committed here so many years ago. With all of the suffering felt within its walls, there is little wonder that this place serves as one of the most haunted in all of New York.
57 West 57th Street, Manhattan. In the heart of New York City, 57 West 57th Street rises 20 stories into Manhattan's famous skyline. The building has been visited by thousands of patrons looking to take a break from their routine lives and enjoy the finer things. People have slept there, dined there, and in the case of one ill-fated love triangle in the 1940s, some have even died there. In 1922, Albert Champion, inventor of the spark plug and founder of the Champion and A.C. Delco Company, married showgirl Edna Crawford. Their marriage was brief, however, when Edna took Frenchman Charles Brazel as a lover. Charles was younger and more exciting to Edna, and they were soon in each other's company more often than not. Albert was suspicious of their affair, but his work kept him away and out of sight from their behavior. However, Albert soon became privy to their affair when he caught them together in a Paris hotel. While confronting them, Albert and Charles engaged in a fight that left the businessman dead after Charles punched him in the chest. Edna and Brazel convinced authorities Albert died of a weak heart, With the murder dismissed by the authorities, the pair was free to spend Albert's fortune. Edna was so carefree with the money that when she found out the penthouse at 57 West 57th Street was unavailable, she bought it for $1.3 million in cash. But money did not buy the pair happiness. Brazel was a jealous, controlling man who kept Edna a prisoner of the penthouse. He would constantly argue with her and eventually beat her to death with a telephone. When her bodyguards burst in and found what he had done, they fought with Brazel and threw him out the window to his death. The penthouse lay vacant for years until purchased by Carlton Alsop. He claimed to hear Edna's clicking high heels and the couple's violent arguments. Guests would often leave in the middle of the night, stating that they would see the ghost of a woman in their room, bloodied and beaten. Others would report smelling a woman's perfume and even complain that the phone would ring in the middle of the night with the faint sound of a woman crying on the other end. The ghostly happenings became too much for Alsop, and eventually his wife left him. His dogs had nervous breakdowns, and he ultimately had himself committed to an asylum before abandoning the penthouse forever. Current tenants still hear the ghost of Edna, forever pacing the floors of the penthouse, which now houses an art gallery. In time, perhaps she'll rest, but for now, she remains a prisoner of her own betrayal.
From the fast-paced life of New York City to the peaceful forests of the Catskill Mountains, New York has something for everyone. Those who are looking for fame and fortune, or those who yearn for rest and relaxation. For all its beauty and culture, there are many things to be experienced for those living there, and the stories told by those who have died there.